Hello, I'm the Media Wiz, because one art form wasn't enough, and we're doing another vlog video. I originally meant for this to be a review, but I took notes for it. I even tried doing this as a commentary, but I didn't really have that much to say while watching it, so I figured best way to talk about it is just by doing a vlog. That's usually my mentality when I can't really do a scripted review for it, but I also can't do a commentary for it. So I've had this on my radar for a while now. It's been around for a while, and never talked about the Jurassic World franchise, more specifically the Jurassic World franchise, because it's been on a slow decline over the course of its existence. I liked the first Jurassic World movie. It wasn't great, but I enjoyed it for the most part. And then I heard really bad things about the sequel and then the one after that. This Jurassic World live tour is supposed to be a midquel show that takes place after the first movie, but it also takes place before the second. So, as it stands, it's fine. Like, all I heard going into it was that, oh, it was mostly geared towards younger audiences. So I was a little bit worried, like, oh no, does that mean it's going to be really cheesy and annoying? And some parts of it are, but for the most part, it's not a horrible show. It's not that bad. Generally speaking, it's pretty much just a typical Jurassic World style adventure. I have a couple new characters in here, but there's this one who's specifically meant to be a love interest for Kate, and he ends up getting together with her at the end. Like, he has this whole subplot where he's trying to ask her out and trying to reveal his true feelings. He has a talk with Owen at one point, and he basically says, like, yeah, I once had feelings for her, things didn't work out, like, go for it, go for it. And, well, this then, it becomes a huge plot point during this big action set piece. But after the events of the first movie, they're trying to take care of some dinosaurs, and there's this Troodon, I forget the exact species name, but it's a type of velociraptor-like creature. And Kate has one as a pet, and she nicknamed her Genie, short for genius. And so eventually when things went bad and they had to evacuate a lot of the dinosaurs off the island, then Genie got taken to some medical research lab, and they were going to try and turn raptors and other dinosaurs into, like, military weaponry. So then it becomes a matter of trying to get Genie out of this facility, which is, of course, run by the bad guys. I'm sadly blanking on their names because they became bigger players in the Jurassic World sequels, which I honestly had no interest in seeing. But yeah, like, they're the typical bad guys, the evil scientist and the evil billionaire that are just in it for the money and the scientific accolades. And their army of goons who get beaten very quickly by our heroes in all the action fight scenes. So once our ragtag team of heroes, including Kate, Owen, Matt, the new guy who has the hots for Kate, and these two other characters who are interns. I forget the girl's name, but her whole thing is that she's really into dinosaurs and dinosaur biology, and she wants to eventually become a scientist and wants to help study dinosaurs alongside Kate. And then you have the other guy who's supposed to be in charge of the company's social media, and you know this because his name is Chad, and he is portrayed as a stereotype social media influencer. As soon as his character comes out on stage, he basically just goes into this whole, like, he's on his phone and going like, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, squad fam. And all throughout in his dialogue, he keeps mentioning, like, he wants to do a dinosaur podcast. And, like, there's one part where they're showing these, like, glowing dinosaurs to show off, like, that they say in the story that they were trying to genetically create dinosaurs by mixing their DNA with jellyfish to help them glow in the dark for some kind of parade that never happened. And there's a part where Chad is like, oh man, I wish I had my phone. This totally would be worth live streaming. And there's another line of dialogue like that at some other point in the show. He says something about, like, he's like, oh man, I really wish I could post this, but there's going to be people commenting fake or something like that. And I mean, some of it's funny, but there is that worry that maybe the people who make stuff like this, like, not just live shows, but like movies, TV shows, whenever they include characters who identify as social media influencers, there's that worry that, like, are they putting that in because they think that people unironically love that? Or are they putting it in there because they're trying to make fun of it? Most of the time, it feels like they're trying to make fun of it, but I've seen some movies and shows where they put that in, and it feels like they're specifically doing it because some out-of-touch old farts that put it together are just like, oh, kids love that. Kids love streamers and Fortnite and Twitch and YouTube, HTTP, just put that in there. I feel like here it was mostly making fun of it, but it did become cringe. But it did become really annoying after a while. I mean, just that one line about, oh man, I wish I could live stream this. It's like, okay, we get it. He's the social media tech guy. Yeah, all right. Eventually, they make their way back to the island. It's revealed that Genie, the raptor-like creature, has babies, and they need to find the eggs. But the bad guys are also trying to find the eggs because they have some kind of tracker put on her, so they're able to follow, and they eventually come face to face with the bad guys. Ultimately, it comes down to Kate versus one of the main villains, and it's supposed to be over this canyon ravine type place. So it could be a big action set piece, and there are several fight scenes all throughout this show, and I mean, how do I describe it? It's not that they're horribly choreographed. They're way better than Ninja Turtles Getting Down in Your Town. If you didn't see my review of that, and if you don't know what I mean, check out that review. Because maybe it's just the version of the show that I watched, but the whole thing is clearly just actors miming along, because it's from super far away, so you can't really see what the actors are saying. It's all them trying to pantomime along to a recorded show. A lot of shows that are supposed to be I remember Monsters Inc. on Ice when I saw that a long, long time ago. That's clearly what they were going for. So it's not a super uncommon practice, but as it stands, you can clearly tell that a lot of the fight choreography was not super in sync. There's lots of points where people are just punching and the punch happens either 2 seconds before or 2 seconds later. It's not that well synced up. Again, maybe other versions of the show are better in that department, but the version that I watched, very out of sync in that department. To prove that he has a thing for Kate, Matt shows up, punches the bad guy, and he falls off the ravine, but then he comes back later. He somehow survived that. I don't know why. At least the other bad guy got picked up by a pterodactyl. Correction, pterodactyl puppet on strings, and then they hoisted him up into the rafters, and he was never seen ever again. All of this culminates in this big set piece at the end where, of course, they have a giant T-Rex animatronic. And despite the fact that it's clearly on a platform that's being wheeled around to try and mimic walking, damn impressive. I mean, it took me back to when me and Shannon reviewed the original Jurassic Park ride, and back then it was just a dinosaur head smashing through a roof, and we were like, oh, that's impressive. This, for what it is, impressive. I mean, we're still not at the point where we have an actual dinosaur robot walking around without a platform, but still, as it stands, not going to nitpick. That was actually pretty cool. And they also tried to make it awesome by having guys with flamethrowers try to keep it at bay. It ends exactly like you'd expect. Bad guys are defeated, the good guys go off, the Genie is reunited with her babies, which then hatch into these little raptor-like animatronics. And I forgot to mention, earlier in the fight scenes, you have it that Genie teams up with Blue, the velociraptor that Owen helped take care of in the movies. So there's some continuity for you. And they even found a way to crowbar in the tagline from the second movie. And I was like, wait, that sounds familiar. And then I checked to see if it was in the trailer, and yeah, sure enough it was. And it's like, so that's their way to bridge the gap between the first one and the second one, and this one just lands smack dab in the middle. Aside from the forced social media influencer speak and some of the off-key fight choreography, which some of it was okay. Some of the fights were cool. It's just that again, some of it was cool. I mean, like I said, flamethrowers were neat. There's a part where you have guys doing motorbike tricks. That was kind of cool. Other than that, though, I can just describe this as okay. It's fine for what it is. I mean, it's got to be better than the sequels. From what I heard and from what I've seen of the Jurassic World sequels, this seemed so much better in comparison. And again, maybe it was because I'm thinking nostalgically of the first Jurassic World. Though in defense of Jurassic World as a franchise, as much as I heard the sequel sucked, I actually heard that the Netflix show that's based on it is actually decent. So who knows? Maybe this falls more in league with that. I mean, it's not great. It's not the worst. It's not the worst live show I've ever looked at. I mean, that still goes to crap like the Ninja Turtles coming out of their shells tour and getting down in your town. That was so much worse. But it's nowhere near the masterpiece that is something like SpongeBob on Broadway. It's just okay. That's the best way to describe it. It's just okay. Yeah, that's pretty much all I wanted to talk about with this one. I wanted to do this as a review at first, and I tried recording a commentary, but I felt the only way to truly talk about this was just kind of do a little rundown and talk about some of the key things that I wanted to mention. As for what to expect next time on MediaWiz, expect something very similar. We're going to be looking at the Waterworld live show, which, man, yeah, you have a really overhyped bomb of a movie like Waterworld, and then you have the live show that was actually better. So, yeah, we'll talk about that next time on the MediaWiz. But until then, I'm the MediaWiz, because one art form wasn't enough.